and welcome to a very overdue everyday makeup drawer review. I like to do these monthly, refreshing my everyday makeup drawer, and I last did one in December. January's just didn't happen, and so I've been using this makeup in here for a while, have definitely formed some opinions on things that I like, and actually a few things we're going to go ahead and declutter. There will be a second video coming up next where we go through the new things that I'm pulling in for the month of technically February is kind of how we're looking at this. I'm filming this towards the end of January. I think it's the last week of January I'm filming this. So I'm kind of counting this refresh I'm doing today as the one for February. So as you guys know, I like to do themes for Shop My Stash, and the theme for this last sort of pull was going in for sort of a combination of like holiday glam and comfort makeup, because for me over the holidays it's this weird combination of like having downtime and just wanting comfortable, easy makeup, as well as having holiday parties and things where you want to get a little more dressed up. So I wanted to pull makeup that kind of was sitting in those two spectrums. Okay, so I had two concealers that I had pulled this last month. One is from Makeup Revolution. This is their Fast Base Concealer in the shade C3. I was thinking it was F2, C3. This one I like quite a bit. I think it's a very thin, sort of medium coverage concealer. I compare this very much to the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind. I did really enjoy this guy. A little more coverage. This is from Pacifica. This is their full coverage lasting concealer, and this is in the shade 20NF. This one definitely gave me more coverage, and it's a little bit of a deeper tone, but it's pretty close to like my exact skin match, which has kind of been my preference of late for concealers. I've been preferring things that are like more my skin as opposed to super brightening under my eyes. These two just stay in here. This is one I use to kind of refresh eye makeup towards the end of the day. If I need to go out again, it's a little Perk Up Under Eye Treatment Brightener from Julep. And then this is a stick concealer from Revlon that I am using up. And then I had these two potted sort of cream blushes in here. This one from e.l.f. is in the shade Soft Peach. This is part of their Beautifully Bare line. I love this blush. Every time I reach for it, I just think it makes my cheeks look so bright and so healthy, and I don't know, there's something about this that's just really a happy color to me. This is a cream to powder texture. You can use your finger, you can use a brush. I feel like if you are somebody who wants to dabble in cream products but they make you kind of nervous, this is a good sort of beginner product. It's not very expensive, and it also has a rose shade if you prefer something a little bit more pinky toned. I'd also pull this Colourpop Supershock Cheek in a satin shade in Prenup, which is more of a pinky mauve. This one has kind of started to dry out on me a little bit. Like, I found it a little difficult to work with, and I don't know, I feel like what's weird is I have a Supershock cheek that is older than this, and it was one in my project pan last year, and that one's still going strong. But for some reason, this one has just kind of dried out on me. I've really had to work to build up that swatch just now. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and declutter this guy. And then the last blush product I had in here was from Physicians Formula. This is their Dewy Elixir blush. I do think these are probably the closest thing at the drugstore to the serum drops that M Cosmetics put out. This is sort of a light peachy shade. It is called Gorgeous Peach, and it's more of a neutral peach, I guess is what I would say, than a bright peach. So I think that color is absolutely gorgeous, and I love this formula. In terms of sort of bronzer contour type products, I pulled a couple of things, two that are in here. One is this Milani Contour and Highlight Duo. I primarily reach for the contour side of this because this is becoming one of my favorite sort of cream bronzers, and unfortunately they have discontinued this product, which makes me super duper sad. So I am using this up, and I actually found a backup of this, which I don't usually purchase backups very often, but I found one of these for sale still out on, I think it was Amazon, and so I went ahead and purchased it. This is from Temptu. This is their shimmer bronzer. I do like this one. I think the tone is really pretty. I just kind of put a couple dots on the back of my hand like so, and kind of smear it around, and then I dip a brush into it and then pat it on my face, and when you blend it out, it is actually a really nice color that isn't super orangey or super cool toned either. And then one product that's not in the drawer right now, and that is because it's been pulled into my project pan for 2020. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Contour Wand. I love this product. It looks kind of dark and intense, but it blends out so freaking easily. And I feel like because of the sponge tip applicator, it's just very easy to kind of dot a little bit on your face and then use a brush or a sponge to blend it out. Moving back, I've got my everyday mascaras in here. I have a feeling that this one is probably gonna make it through maybe another week. Mascara is not one of those things I have lots and lots of ones open on a regular basis, so I need to see if I even have any ones. If not, I'll need to plan on purchasing one probably in the month of February. I've got a couple of eyeshadow primers that stay in here. This Essence Make Me Brow is just about done. I'm gonna probably pop that into my empties, and then we'll go to, I think I have one of my AOA Brow Studio gels that I get for $1 on Shop Miss A. I think I have one backup left of those that I will probably pull in this month. I've got a brown eyeliner from Physicians Formula, and then I have this Ultimate Brow Highlighter from Wet n Wild that I always keep in here because I say I'm going to use it on my lower waterline, but I never do. And I just feel like as I was looking at this drawer, getting ready to film, I'm like, I'm not using this. This is getting really old. I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pass that guy into the dumpster. In terms of other things I pulled last month, I had pulled my MAC Blacktrack liquid liner. I just am not wearing a ton of black liquid liner, but I did play around with kind of smoking this out a little bit a few times. I think I'm gonna go ahead and leave this in this drawer. I feel like I was gonna stand a better chance of using this and getting some more good use out of it if I just leave it in here. So I think that's just gonna stay. And then I had a couple of highlighters down here. One is from Burt's Bees. This is their All Aglow highlighter in Opal Mist. It has kind of a glossy core in the middle and then a pearlized pigment on the outside. Like I said, it's not the world's most beaming highlighter, but it's a really nice glossy sort of wet look, and I really enjoy that. I think it looks very natural and very much like my cheeks are wet. This does not set down completely, but it's not also the tackiest highlighter I've ever felt in my life. So I do, if you don't like any sort of tack left on your highlighter, this one's not for you. But if you've been wanting to kind of explore this idea of a sort of glossy wet look balm, this might be a good option to try at the drugstore. And then this is super old, and I honestly think I'm going to go ahead and declutter it as of today. So this is from Pat McGrath. This was actually the very first product she ever put out on the market. It had a highlighter and a balm side to it. The packaging is really kind of cheap. I mean, I think she made products to be functional versus like super in a makeup kit versus like super fancy packaging. But anyway, so there's a shiny balm side that never kind of sets down. It truly is a glossy balm. And then you had kind of a pretty standard, in my opinion, cream highlighter that's pretty easily duped at the drugstore. So I don't know, I've had this for so long. The packaging the caps never quite stay on. They always pop off a little bit. I've had this for several years and it's time to pass it on. And then the last highlighter I had in here was from Wet n Wild. This is the Hello Halo liquid highlighter in Halo Goodbye. I do really like the fact that these have these little wands in them because I do find that they're pretty easy to dot around your cheek and then blend it out. It is a really lovely formula. It's a nice sort of glossy pink highlight. So I do enjoy these, and I kind of liked the fact that they were in these glass bottles. And then in terms of primers in the back, I had my Hollywood Foliage Filter from Charlotte Tilbury. This got lots of great use this month. I freaking love this product. Can't say enough good things about it. I find this is shade 1 Fair. It's just got a hint of coverage to it, but it also, it can be a very subtle highlight. It can be a strategically placed primer under or over makeup. I don't know. There's something about this. I've raved enough about it on my channel, but I love this product. I had 2 MAC primers in here pull one from back here. So this is the MAC Natural Radiance Base Lumiere. It's more of a not a highlighting base and more of just a moisturizing base with a hint of radiance to it. This is now also part of my project pan for 2020. So that is sitting in a different drawer. The other one that I had pulled out was this MAC Timecheck lotion. This is technically, I think, part of their skincare line, but I went to a MAC makeup artist sort of thing at Nordstrom at one point, and they were using this as a primer, but I went and I pumped some out this last month and it has definitely gone off. The smell is awful. So I am gonna go ahead and I think I'll be able to, because this is glass, I should be able to empty this out and just recycle the packaging. All right, so the rest of the stuff back there, some blotting papers, a lip scrub, a lip balm, that all just stays back there. So let's go ahead and scoot over and look at face products. All right, so now we're looking at the face products that I pulled this last month. Let's go ahead and get foundations out of the way. I was using this Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue Tinted Hydrating Gel Cream. I really did enjoy this one. I really was struggling with dry skin in a way that I don't typically struggle, quite frankly. This was actually a really nice product for me to be using during that time frame. It played very nicely, gave me nice hydration during the day. This Found Sealer from Tarte, I did really enjoy this one in terms of it being hydrating on my skin. I do feel like this shade is just, it's too dark for me, and I bought this in store, so there's really no excuse for me having bought a shade that is too dark. I mean, it's too dark when it goes on my skin, and then as it dries, it becomes even more obvious that it's too dark. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass this on to a friend. And then the last foundation I had in here was my Magic Foundation from Charlotte Tilbury. I have the shade 2 in this. This is actually a fantastic shade match for me. It's not too pink, it's not too yellow. It's a really nice neutral tone and it blends into my skin like a dream. I did really like this one. So I actually traveled with this, and then I also packed her Light Wonder foundation, and I really like mixing these two together as well because I feel like this one's giving me all that hydration and glow. This one's giving me more coverage and a natural finish, and they if I wanted to boost the coverage, I would mix these together, or I could wear this one on its own and just get a really lovely medium buildable natural finish foundation. So I like both of those. All right, let's pull this from the back. This is from Fiona Styles. This is her contour palette. I did use this a few times this month. I have to be honest, I wasn't doing a ton of contouring. Still super bummed that the Fiona Styles line did not work out in Ulta, because I think she put out some absolutely amazing products. So I'm gonna hang on to this one. All right, so I had a Flower Beauty Heatwave bronzer in here. This is their lightest shade. I talked about how much I love this bronzer on my channel. I think the undertone is absolutely beautiful. The formula blends like a dream. It's got a nice satin finish. It's not too glowy, but it's not super flat either. I think this is a fantastic product at the drugstore. I think the only their bronzer I had in here, because I had the liquid bronzers as well, was this little face palette from Rimmel. This is the Rimmel Kate palette, and I have to say I really enjoy the bronzer that's in here as well, but I feel like the texture of these has shifted. Like I feel like they have gone bad, and I have just decided that if I'm finding products as part of my everyday makeup drawer that they're going off, I'm not going to hang on to them just to declutter them as part of a collection later on. So I got a lot of good use out of this palette. I feel like I got good value for money. I've used this and traveled with it for a long time, but I think it's gone off, and because it's not cruelty free, I'm not gonna make it a point on my channel to talk about it a ton. This was my Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder. I have the shade 1. I, to be honest, used this a little bit, but not a ton. Because my skin was so dry, I really wasn't reaching for powder hardly at all, maybe a little bit to set under my eyes. So I really feel like I'm gonna have to evaluate how much powder I have in my collection and the fact that I'm just not using it a ton. So this is a blush and I would say highlighter combo from CoverGirl. It's one of their instant cheekbones. This is 240 Sophisticated Sable. I traveled with this a few times in the month of December and then also in January, and I had such a good time with this blush. So these two are definitely blush shades, and then this is a highlighter. All right, so there are the two blushes and the highlighter. The highlighter is like this perfect sort of pinky champagne, and then you've got a warmer blush and a more mauve-y blush. I was also doing this thing where I was putting this middle shade on the apples of my cheeks and this further back, a la Charlotte Tilbury kind of cheek duos, and I just think this is such a fantastically underrated product at the drugstore. I don't feel like I love the packaging on this and whatsoever. The pan size is a little small, but because I use a smaller highlighting brush, I didn't have an issue here. And then because I didn't mind if these two shades got a little bit on each of the, if I got a little bit rather of each of these shades on my brush for blush, I felt like it worked really well. So yeah, this was like a surprising little love in the month, especially of December. This little blush from Hourglass, this is the Ambient Lighting blush in Incandescent Electra. I did enjoy this blush quite a bit. I thought it was a really pretty brightening peach shade. These do blend out incredibly well, and I think they are. It's a really lovely formula. Other blushes, yes, my Marc Jacobs Flesh and Fantasy, still one of my favorite blushes. I've talked ad infinitum about this one. More of a neutral blush with a hint of a mauve leaning undertone. This was also a nice sort of neutrally blush. This is from Ulta Beauty. This is their mineral blush, and this is the shade Tiger Lily. And this one is got a really nice satin texture, pretty similar to the Marc Jacobs shade, just maybe a little deeper and a little bit more rosy, whereas the Marc Jacobs one is a little bit lighter. And then the final blush that was in here was from Laura Geller. This is her Baked Blush and Brighten in Pink Buttercream. Also a beautiful glowy blush. This one's got more of a pinky mauve undertone to it. But as you can see, this was definitely the month for neutral blushes that just kind of went with everything, which, if I'm being honest, like that's kind of my favorite blush style. And then 4 highlighters in here. Let's see. This is one from Pop Beauty. This is Celestial Light. It's a sort of a baked formula, maybe baked gelée. It is quite metallic, so you do have to kind of go in with a light hand, or it can get, in my opinion, out of control pretty quickly, but it is pretty. I had also pulled this Stila Heaven 2 highlighter, and this is in the shade Opulence, which is their white version. I have Kitten, which has definitely been a favorite of mine over the years. So the white shade definitely has a little bit more of a micro shimmer running through it than Heaven's Hue does. It's not so much that I hate it, that I'm like, oh, glittery highlight, because I do not like glittery highlights, but I did want to call out that they are getting a little bit of that gloss from a bit of a micro shimmer that I don't find to be in the Kitten one. This is very, very brightening, but it has almost a clear base to it, so it doesn't come off like a lot of white highlighters. So I did enjoy this one and get a lot of use out of it. In contrast, this one from Cover FX in the shade Moonlight is very subtle. And every time I swatch this, I'm always like, ooh, why do I like this? And then I put it on my face, and something about the act of actually wearing this as opposed to swatching it transforms it into this really lovely, subtle highlight that never looks like overdone. On days where I just don't want a super intense highlight, or I want it to just look like my skin is glowing, this is a powder highlight that manages to do that. And so I maintain that this is a lovely highlighter. This one from Too Faced, this is the Diamond Highlighter. I can't remember if they had a shade name to this one, because I think they've released some other ones since. This one has a bit of an opalescent sort of color shifting thing to it. Depending on where you swatch, you can get sort of more purple or more blue or more greenish sort of shades. I have just decided that I'm not like massively in love with how this looks on my skin. I went through a time where I was like, oh yeah, slightly subtle, you know, bluish, greenish highlights are like my jam, and now I just don't feel that way anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass this guy on. And then in terms of powders back here, I had 3. One was the Becca Hydra Mist powder. I'm gonna sound like a broken record. I wasn't using a lot of powder, but I was reaching for this to set my under eyes. I definitely feel like the cooling sensation that was there when I first bought it is going away. I don't feel like the feel of it on my under eyes is changing. Like, I don't feel like the formula has changed. It does blur pores a little bit and blur fine lines, so I do like that, but the cooling sensation has definitely gone, so it makes me wonder if the formula will start to shift. Like I said, I haven't noticed that yet, but it could happen. Another loose powder I had in here was from Milani. This is their Radiant powder. This is a quite radiant powder. In fact, I would definitely say this is not one for setting your makeup. It has a fairly strong, I'm gonna assume it's mica in here that's giving it its glow, and it's not the glittery glow. So I sometimes mica can be milled in such a way that it has a pretty strong glittery effect to it. That is not what happens with this guy, but it is an incredibly strong glow. So this is one where you do kind of have to strategically place this one on your face. I found that this is definitely a finishing powder for me. If I set my makeup with this and there's any tack left in my makeup base at all, it just sucks it in, and then all of a sudden it looks like I'm the Tin Man. But if my makeup is set and I just want to buff a little bit of this all over to add some additional glow, it does a nice job in that respect. This is a Makeup Revolution strobe highlighter. This is in Everglow Lights. I felt like after my last Shop My Stash, I had it in my highlighter section and I wanted to try and use it as a powder. Perhaps now was the wrong time to be testing that in terms of powder, but I did find it to be rather brightening. And on a couple days where I felt like my concealer needed a bit of brightening, I was reaching for this for under my eyes. I feel like I need to go head to head between this and a different powder that I have in my collection from Physicians Formula that kind of acts as that brightening powder underneath my eyes, and decide which one I want to keep, because I don't feel like I use this style of product enough to warrant keeping 2. But for the time being, this one's going to stay in my collection. All right, we are looking at my eyeshadow and lip section. This has gotten quite messy. Get rid of some of this stuff at the front first. This is Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Quad. I did use this quite a bit this last month. I do think that these shades are really great for someone with fair skin tones. I just feel like the 2 matte shades are like perfect transition and deepening shades, because I often don't want my outer corner to be much deeper than that. And you've got this sort of glittery topper shade and then a really nice sort of champagne pink shade that works really well as all over lid. So yeah, this is nice. Now, is it worth $54? Probably not, but I do really enjoy this one, and it's a really handy compact for travel. Another quad I had in here is from J. Manuel Beauty. This was his Trance Eyeshadow Quad. I loved this. I got great use out of this, but I feel like the powders are going off. They're not performing very well. They've gotten very powdery and they weren't blending very easily when I used them. And I thought, well, maybe it was just a bad blending day. It happens, but I feel like the more I've used them, the more I've realized that I think the formula has just kind of gone off. So this is one that I'm going to throw away and recycle as best I can. This little duo from Julep, I loved this month. Like, this reaffirmed my love for these little duos. This is in the shade, excuse me, Cinnamon and Spice. So it's just 2 shimmer shades, but the pigmentation is stunning on these, and I so loved wearing one of these shades all over my lid and calling it a day. Like, I just felt like these colors were so easy to work with. So I loved this. I want to pull probably some more of these little duos in this next month, because I would like to kind of I'd like to play around with these more. I just so enjoyed these two this last month. So this is from Pixie by Petra. This is the Fairy Lights. This is in the shade Sunray. I did wear this over the holidays. I don't think I've reached for this in January, but it's kind of got a yellowy gold base with like this beautiful silver glitter. I do think it is probably one of the closer things to the Stila Glitter and Glows, I think, at the drugstore. These still are rather pricey though, because it's Pixie and Pixie's not cheap. Speaking of Stila, rather, I did have a shimmer and glow in the shade Bohème. This is kind of a purpley lavender, and I did reach for this quite a few times as just kind of a all over lid shade. I buffed it up, called it a day. It's just a beautiful, cool toned sort of pinky lavender. And then this is a Glitterati from Hard Candy. This is in the shade Star. It's kind of got an interesting sort of pink, peach, gold shift thing going on. It is actually a really pretty color. I did wear this over the holidays as well, but once again, I haven't reached for it much in the month of January, but it does have really nice pigmentation, nice high shine. All right, so this is a Colourpop Jelly Much eyeshadow. This is in the shade Half Moon. These are drying out so fast on me. I can kind of sort of get this to work. Gosh, it's even gotten worse since I last used it. Yeah, this is just, it's a beautiful color. Somebody said in my comments section there was a way to recover these. I'm gonna go look for that comment. I can't remember what they said to do to get to recover these, because obviously this feels more like a water-based product that's just dried out. So I'm gonna go research that. I love this color. It's not a color they make anymore. I'm probably not gonna be buying these Jelly Much shadows at all anymore from Colourpop, just because of how quickly they dried out on me. I'm gonna set this aside and see if there's a recovery process for it. And I will let you guys know down in the comments. Maybe I'll pin a comment to let you know kind of what the outcome of this was. Cream shadows, one from Kiko Milano. This is a discontinued shade in their Cream Crush Lasting Color eyeshadow, the shade 05. I love this one. It is still going strong. It is such a high foiled sort of taupey silver, super brightening on the lid. Just an absolutely gorgeous shade. So definitely hanging on to that. And then I also use this quite a bit. This is Cruisin' Chic from e.l.f. This is in their Smudge Pot. This one is sort of just a very light taupe. It's not as dark as Bad to the Bronze used to be from Maybelline, which is definitely one of my favorite shades at the drugstore, but it's still a really easy to wear, all over lid look. Reach for this on days when I just wanted a very easy makeup look. This is NARS Pygar. It's a discontinued shade, but it's one that's kind of got this really interesting sort of green gold to it. It's super high foiled. I kind of think this green antique gold color is just, that is just my kind of gold. I love this shade. These next two are kind of a pain in the rear end to deal with. So you got to be braced for like a long makeup application process. This is from Ulta Beauty Lustrous Foil Eyeshadow. This is in the shade Silver Leaf. So this is one where you kind of need almost like a palette or a plate, because it's this loose, almost like flaky pigment that does need some sort of mixing medium almost to make it work. I'm going to buff this into my skin so you can see the effect. But this obviously is not a technique you could do on your eyes to buff it in and make it work. The effect is almost like wet. It's really, really cool. And I do feel like when I take the time to build a super glam eye and, you know, mix this pigment in and apply it to my eye, the effect that I get is just like jaw-dropping, but it's also a lot of work. So it's not something that I'm like reaching for on the regular. And this is from BH Cosmetics. This is their Diamond Dazzlers. So this is a loose pigment, and I kind of feel the same way about that I do about the Ulta Beauty one. It's kind of messy because they've built the cap in with the stopper, which is convenient for storage. I don't really have a great place to tap this, and you really need to tap this onto something. As you buff it in, it's this really cool antique silver gold. I don't know, there's something really interesting about the shade here that I enjoy quite a bit. So once again, kind of messy, not as messy as the Ulta Beauty one. I had two of the CoverGirl True Naked Queenship cream shadow sticks. I had a matte shade with 905. They don't print the colors on here, which is just like a really, it's a nice neutral base that, once again, easy everyday wearing looks. And then I also had the shade 930, which is more of your deeper, more metallic bronze shade there. Very easy to work with, nice creamy formula. Definitely reminds me a lot of the Laura Mercier eye sticks. So if you like the Laura Mercier ones but are looking for a cruelty-free and or cheaper option, these ones from CoverGirl are fantastic. This little mini palette from Wet n Wild, I did use this. It makes a pretty look. It's fine. This is walking on eggshells. I don't need this in my collection. I can make this look with a zillion different palettes, and I'm just gonna pass this on. This is my Lorac Pro 4 palette. This one I really do enjoy. I like the rosy tones in here. I like that it goes slightly warmer with this warm ginger and amaretto shade, but it also goes a little cooler with like rosebud and pecan. You've got some sort of mauve shades in here. You've got some taupe, you've got burgundy, you've got a really beautiful gold. This was definitely, I think, my favorite out of the Lorac palettes. I'm bummed Lorac isn't cruelty-free. They're one of those brands that I feel like should be cruelty-free for some reason in my head, and they're not. This is my Urban Decay Naked palette. I bought one of these right before they discontinued it because I actually like this palette and I like the colors in here, and I wore this on my wedding, and so I ended up getting rid of the one that was in my collection that was showing pan and was totally beat the snot. Pulled this one in this month. I used a lot of the shades in here. I like the two mattes that are in here. I think they work well for me for creases. I like the sort of satin shades that are all down here to kind of do various brown to sort of rosy smoky toned looks. So I know not everyone liked this palette, but I still do. This is the little palette that I put together. I will insert some swatches here so you can see how these shades worked, but I was kind of looking for like a neutrals sort of glam look that would allow me to kind of have some basics but also leverage some really pretty shiny shades. In particular, this white gold shade is just freaking stunning. Like, it's like liquid metal. I love everything about that. That is from JD Glow. It is one of their Metalon shadows in white gold. It's amazing. I also had a lot of fun with this. So this is from Jouer. This was Christmas last year. Their Ultra Foil eyeshadow palette. I will say I had a little bit of issue because I traveled with this with some of the pan sort of popping out. So I was able to kind of repress this shade and then also a little bit of this purple one, but it does make me think that this one is a little more fragile than I realized when I first, traveled with it. The shadows themselves still perform. They're absolutely lovely. But when I was traveling back, because I took this with me to Phoenix, when I was traveling back, I ended up like piling a whole bunch of tissues into here and then closing this and wrapping it in like padding just to make sure I could get this thing home. So really pretty, but I don't think it's travel friendly. And then final palette was from Colourpop. This is the All I See Is Magic palette. This was a holiday palette that they did several years ago. I still feel like the shadows are going strong. I had no issues working with any of them. I think you've got some really fun looks that can be made in here between berries and rusts and sort of more mauve tones down in here. You've got a really fun duochrome. You've got some really pretty rose gold shades. I really actually kind of fell in love with this dark murky brown and did sort of a really dark smoky eye one day, leveraging that shade because it's got this like copper shift there, if you can see that, which I thought was really, really pretty. So yeah, I made some really fun looks out of this palette, and I wish they would go back to sort of more interesting color stories like this. I feel like Colourpop has kind of lost its way in terms of eyeshadow palettes lately. I know a lot of people still love them. I personally have not really found a whole lot of Colourpop palettes lately that have really called to me. So it was fun to go back and play with this one. All right, lip products. We are zoomed in so we can do some swatching. Had a lot of lip products in here. Had pulled my JK Magic shade from Charlotte Tilbury. love this lipstick. Just made me happy. Also had pulled in Laura, which is more of a fiery red color in her matte formula. I love these sort of like tomato reds. I just think they're so brightening. Every time I put on a color like this, I feel like my face just looks brightened. I also pulled in a deeper red. This is Velvet Jazz from let's see, Lisa Eldridge in her matte line, and that was fun for some holiday looks. And then I also had Rouge Berry, which I wore out, which goes a little bit more plummy toned, and it's not quite as intense as the Lisa Eldridge shade. So I had one of the Color Reshines in the shade Topless, which is just a really nice nude pink, super comfortable. That was a really easy everyday sort of wear shade for me. And then I don't think I wore this. This was the Julep It's Whipped Matte Mousse in Ultimate Apricot. In fact, I am like 99% sure that I did not wear this one. I'm gonna leave that in. I think I would actually like to use that one. I had this Julep It's Balm in the shade Vintage Rose, which is a little bit more of a cool toned pink shade. That's wonderful. Also got some good use out of this lip balm from Dior. This is one that I would like to look to use up. It's kind of a corally pink that kind of intensifies as it stays on your lips longer, but it's a really cool shade. I did play around with this lip gloss shade as kind of a topper for Makeup Revolution. This came out, I think it was holiday last year. It's just a sheer gloss that has a bit of a sort of opal-y pink color to it. When I was doing warm looks, this was kind of my go-to. This was from Physicians Formula. This is their Butter Bronzer in the shade Brazilian Sunset. It is quite warm, especially for someone as cool toned as I am, but it definitely works when I'm pushing the bounds of like really warm lipstick colors. And this formula is super, like, it's got kind of like an oil slick feeling to it. This is a little e.l.f. balm in the shade Perfect Pink. It's also kind of like that Dior one in the sense that it's a balm, but it shifts and kind of goes pink as you put it on. I have just decided I don't really love this pink style balm. I like the corally color one from Dior, and if e.l.f. had one that was more coral toned, I would probably buy it. I think this packaging is beautiful, by the way. It's part of their Beautifully Bare line. That line, when they launched it, had some of the most beautiful packaging at the drugstore. But this one is not doing it for me, so I do think I'm going to pass this one on. And then I also had this Petal Pout lip mask from Flower Beauty. I did get some good use out of this, and I think I'm going to go ahead and keep this one in my drawer as well. It's just winter time. I'd like to have these sort of lip masks in there because I'll pop into this room and put these on in the morning, even if I'm not wearing makeup that day. So this is from e.l.f. This is their tinted lip oil in the shade Pink Kiss. I used the absolute snot out of this month. I think I had this in my purse and I was using this and reapplying this all the time. Pretty much the whole trip in Phoenix, this was like my go-to thing. Now, my only complaint with this one is I don't feel like it lasts super long, and because my lips are dry, it was just like eating this oil. So like this is only gonna last on my lips for maybe like an hour and a half-ish, and then I felt like I was gonna wanna reapply. But it was so easy to work with that I just had it in my pocket, and anytime my lips started feeling even remotely dry, this was coming out and going on my lips. So I don't know, I liked this sort of soft pink color, and I, like I said, used the heck out of this. This is Bare Minerals in the shade Bossy. This is one of their sort of matte mousse lipsticks. I love this color. Still continues to be one of my favorite go-to work colors. It's a little deeper of a nude, but the undertone is like really neutral, I think. It's not super warm, it's not super cool, at least on me, and I freaking love both the formula and this color. So that is Bossy. I didn't wear this. I ended up, on the days when I went to wear red, I ended up wearing the lipsticks from Charlotte Tilbury and Lisa Eldridge, overreaching for this Maybelline Super Stay Matic. And although I maintain this formula is the longest wearing formula I have ever worn in my entire life, I just feel like my love of true matte liquid lipsticks is just it's fading a little bit. I don't know. I mean, this is a beautiful color. It's got a raspberry undertone as opposed to sort of a orangey or a more brick red undertone. Definitely has more pink in it. So it's a beautiful color. But I you know, if I was gonna wear this, it would be over holiday and New Year, and I didn't reach for it once. So I don't know. I'm gonna think about this one. I'm not sure I'm gonna keep it. I had pulled 2 of these NARS Velvet Lip Glides, La Main Blue, which is this really pretty purpley one. I did enjoy playing around with this. I wore this as kind of a pop of color when we went out a couple times, so I did enjoy that. And then the shade Roseland, which is just sort of a warmy, sort of a rosy nude, mid-toned nude on me. I loved this. I used the heck out of that this month. I wore this a lot actually. So those are amazing. And then I had 2 glosses in here. One is the I Heart Revolution, I Heart Chocolate Orange shade, which I love this. It's almost more of a lacquer because it's got such high pigmentation, but such a comfortable formula and such a pretty easy wearable warm nude. Love that. And then on a cooler nude side, I have this Marc Jacobs Enamored shade in Skin Deep, which is more of a cool toned color. And it's one that I like to use if I ever put on a lip gloss and I'm like, or a lipstick rather, and I'm like, oh gosh, that's a little warm for me. This lip gloss will cool it down without making it look grayish. So that was that. All right guys, so that wraps us up for today's video. We've cleared out all these drawers and I'm gonna go ahead now and put away everything that I had pulled out before, and then in the next video we will go into this month's theme. Mo's walking by over there. Hey Mo, do you want to come say hi? Nope. All right, so that wraps us up. Completely lost track of my train of thought as I was bringing my dog into frame, or attempting to bring my dog into frame. So the next video up will be my picks for the month of February, and we'll introduce that month's theme then. But I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Look forward to chatting with you down in the comments. Bye.